Hi, and welcome to Strange, where we make sense of the unusual in the Bible. We take strange verses, passages, even phrases, and we interpret them in a way that usually has a pretty profound meaning and application for our life. What we're doing today is we're taking a look at the question, how did Peter recognize Moses and Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration in Luke chapter 9. And so today we're going to be looking at the transfiguration of Jesus Christ. Now this was a glorious thing. From Luke chapter 9 we have some details that Matthew chapter 17 doesn't give to us. So we're going to take a look at Luke chapter 9 and see how Peter recognizes Moses and Elijah. Now, the traditional thought here is that Moses, Elijah appear with Jesus in his Shekinah glory. Mark tells of the Shekinah glory that's so bright and so incredible. It's so white, his robe, that no launder could ever get it that white. And he closes his description, Mark does, by saying that his face shone like the sun, the full strength of the sun. So this Shekinah glory was incredible, both for Jesus and for his environment and for those standing by with Moses and Elijah. But how in the world did Peter look up and notice Moses and Elijah? They had lived many hundreds of years before. So how in the world did Peter know them? Now, we might say, well, it was Charlton Heston. That's who it was. It was Charlton Heston, and that's how we noticed that it was Moses. No. We can't go there. What we can do is we can take a look at the text and identify maybe some ways for which Peter, from his perspective, could see what was going on. So let's take a look at Luke chapter 9, and we're going to specifically look at verse 29. As he prayed, Jesus, the appearance of his face was altered. His robe became white and glistening. And behold, two men talked with him, who were Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spoke of his decease, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. But Peter and those with him were heavy with sleep. And when they were fully awake, they saw his glory and the two men who stood with him. Then it happened, as they were parting from him, that Peter said to Jesus, Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah, not knowing what he said. While he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were fearful as they entered the cloud. And a voice came from the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. When the voice had ceased, Jesus was found alone. But they kept quiet, told no one in those days any of the things they had seen. It's interesting, this powerful experience makes it into the Synoptic Gospels. All of the Synoptic Gospels have this Mount of Transfiguration. And this is part of us identifying Jesus with his relationship with his Father and his glory. So how did Peter, looking at the scene with Jesus in his glory, identify Elijah and Moses? Well, it comes in that little phrasing, what they were talking about. Now, this is interesting. It's not what they look like, it was what they were talking about. And that's what it says here, who were Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spoke of his decease, or his departure. In the Greek, this word is exodus. So, when we catch a vision of in fact, what they were talking about. What were they talking about? They were talking about the Exodus and Jesus' exodus from this world. Well, who better to talk about Exodus than Moses, the one who led the Israelites out of Egypt and into the Red Sea, where God parted the waters and they walked through. An amazing deliverance that God had in the Exodus in Moses. Then you have Elijah, the man who was carried up to heaven in a chariot of fire. His exodus was, or his departure was unusual and glorious. It's fitting that you have these two talking to Jesus about his glorious departure from this world. It's interesting, neither of them identify themselves as far as we understand from the text that we're given. They don't raise their hand and say, I'm Elijah or I'm Moses. In fact, Peter has to catch this not by appearance, but by conversation. He has to listen in, as it were, to what they're talking about and then gather from what they're talking about to now who they are. That's interesting. And it's interesting that these two are with Jesus in this moment on the Mount of Transfiguration, displayed in his Shekinah glory. Now, this is unusual. This is odd. But this is glorious. And so what do we make of this? Peter, how he recognized Moses and Elijah. Well, we can say this, that he knew the Bible. He knew the Bible. He knew that Moses, as he talked about with Jesus, his departure, he knew that the framework for which Moses was talking was from a man who led the Exodus, led the people of Israel out of Egypt into freedom. And when he heard Elijah's story of how gloriously God had taken him up in his departure or exodus, we can gather that Peter understood the Bible. He understood these two accounts of these two godly men. He also understood what Jesus was talking about. Now, I know as the disciples go, Peter is probably the one who puts his foot in his mouth time and time again, and does so even after this account. But my guess would be that Peter would be the one that would remember this account. He would remember, after all of the sorrow of the crucifixion and the burial and the resurrection, and as they're sitting around the table, that Peter would remember this account. I get it now. I get it that the glory of the exodus of the people of Israel and the glory of Elijah doesn't even compare to the glory of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. I get it. I get it now. You see, all of this understanding comes through the familiarity with the Scripture. And I would like to share with you, if you want to see what God is doing, know what God is doing, how He's moving, touching lives, transforming people, drawing sinners unto Himself, I would encourage you, read the Bible. Become familiar with His voice. And I promise you that there will be a day when you say, I get it. I get it. you'll understand how He works and understand not just how He works, but why He works the way He does, all for His glory. You see, this ends this glorious thing in Luke chapter 9, ends with glory. It ends not with Moses or with Elijah. It ends with Jesus and with the Father speaking, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to Him." My friends, all of Scripture will point you right back to Jesus. And it will point you back in a deeper and more profound way than you and I ever expected. Time and time again, I'm surprised at the truths that I've heard over and over again becoming fresh and new to me in my time of need. I know that will be the case for you as well. Read the Bible. Become familiar with what God says, how He moves, and the reason for all of this, His glory. I pray that this blesses you this week. And I pray that you have a great week, but I pray that you read His Word. Okay, God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.